So I'm alive. Sorry about the lack of videos over the last few months. I know I said I was going to post, and then I proceeded not to post. So, yeah, about that. So what ended up happening was, with the comic, it ended up taking a lot more time out of my life than I expected, which I will be getting into later in this video. But yeah, so I had no time to make videos whatsoever, so I sincerely apologize about that. So you might be wondering why I was gone so long. Like, I can't have been making the comic for that whole time, which I wasn't, so why was I gone for so long? Well, I will get into all of that quickly before I get into the main part of this video. So in terms of my channel, I'm just going to do a couple of channel updates before I go ahead and talk about the comic, which is probably why you're all here. So yeah, you can skip through this if you want to. This is just going to be some information regarding some changes I'm going to make to the channel. So while I was making this comic, I was kind of just thinking, I started to realize that what I was doing with the channel isn't exactly what I wanted to do. I really want to focus more on original character content, because I really like sharing my characters with you guys, and I really, I enjoy sharing my stories, and so I want to focus more on that and less on fan art and challenges and things like that. Although I did really enjoy making things like the redraw videos, so I'll probably still be making those from time to time, because those are super fun for me. So, and I also want to just try out some new things. Like, I want to try making an animatic. I think that would be super fun. And yeah, I just want to try new things and see what works best for me. But yeah, for the time being, as I'm experimenting with this and stuff, I'm not going to be able to keep uploading videos weekly like I used to, and personally I don't really feel like I want to do that. I'm going to be honest, like, YouTube isn't really my biggest goal, so like having a big YouTube channel isn't my biggest goal, so it doesn't seem necessary to put that amount of pressure on myself with the deadline than necessary, because I do plan on making a full-length webtoon, and I definitely won't be able to maintain such strict schedule on both of them, and I know that my webtoon will be my priority, so sorry about that. If that's an issue for any of you, not knowing when I'll upload, but I can't really stick to a schedule, so sorry about that. But hopefully, you'll be here when I do choose to post. I'll probably post every few weeks or so, but no guarantees on exactly when or how or what I'll be doing, but yeah, this is just going to be a bit of an experimental period for me, so please bear with me. Yeah. So anyway, with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and talk about what you guys are probably here for. So I'm going to talk about how I made my webcomic Multichrome. So for those of you who don't know, I made a webtoon for Webtoon's short story contest called Multichrome. It kind of follows my main character, Chroma, who lives in a world called Colorim, where everyone has different hair colors that correlate to different types of powers. Except he has a lot of colors in his hair, which causes many issues, and those have to be resolved. But he meets this girl, Aura, who teaches him how to control them. So yeah, if you haven't read it already, it would be great if you could check it out. It will be linked in the description. So yeah, so if that sounds interesting to you, then that would be great. So I'm going to be going into details about how I made this comic, and hopefully I can give some tips as well for anybody out there who's thinking of making a webtoon. I can definitely say just right off the bat, even though I only had to do 5 episodes for this, it was so much work. It was a lot of work. So yeah, that's tip number 1. If you're gonna make a webtoon, be prepared to do a lot of work, because this was a ton of work. So yeah. So we're going to go back to the very, very beginning. And this would be when I first created Chroma. I created Chroma in December of 2019. He was just a random drawing I had done in my sketchbook because I had gotten a gift from one of my friends. It was just a bunch of colored ballpoint pens. And so I felt like drawing a guy with rainbow hair, and so I did. And you can see that here. So that was the first drawing of Chroma I ever did. Actually, shout out to my sister. I did the sketch for him, and the sketch looked really good, so I didn't want to color it with the pens, because then I wouldn't be able to go back. But she persuaded me to do it, and Chroma was born. So, shout out to her. So, I had him, and he was not attached to any story at all. I had heard about the short story contest around this time, and I had decided not to do it because I just didn't feel like it, and I didn't have any stories that I wanted to do. So then in about the middle of March, I somehow stumbled across the Webtoon page with the details about the contest, and oh, dang. So yeah, I decided to do it. However, there was a little bit of a catch with this. Since the contest had been announced for a while, a lot of other people had a lot more of a head start than me, and I had no idea what I was doing. So what I did was I looked through my characters and I tried to see if there was something I could use for a short story, because I had no ideas. And then I remembered the drawing of Chroma I had done. And actually, fun fact about him, when I first made him, my mom told me that I should make a comic with him. And I told her no, because I didn't want to draw his hair over and over again. You can see how well that went. So yeah, I remembered him, and I decided to make him the main character of my comic. So I started working on the script and ideas for the comic. So I thought maybe the rainbow hair thing, like everybody has bright colored hair, but he's the only one, which makes him like the only one with most of the colors, which makes him different. And then of course I had to slap powers on top of that, because why not? That's fun. And I also kind of, with this comic, I really didn't plan enough ahead of time. Like, by the time I had finished the second episode, I still didn't know what the end was going to be. This was very last second, so yeah. And then, of course, I had to add in a love interest, so that's where Aura came in. You might remember when I did my anatomy tutorials, I drew the girl and I drew the guy. And for the girl, I just started doodling on top of it afterwards, and it became Aura. And I was just like, cool, this is Aura now, so let's roll with it. So yeah, the girl in those tutorials, that is Aura. So I started to work out my story a little more, started to get a bit more of a solid idea. So then I started working on the actual comic part of it on April 4th, which was 3 weeks before the contest actually opened. So this is my first time even making a comic, and there was definitely a really big learning curve with that first episode. I really didn't know what I was doing in terms of like formatting and stuff. I hope it looks okay. I think it was pretty good for it being my first one. So Yeah. But I learned a lot. I definitely learned that if you're not good at drawing something, drawing a comic, it gets you good at that thing. Because when you have to draw hands over and over and over again, you get good at it. And when you have to draw like different poses, you get better at it over time. And like even just my improvement from my first episode to my last episode was insane. I can't even believe it. Definitely expect your first episode to just be learning and figuring it out. It doesn't have to be good, it's just you figuring it out. And so when I uploaded the first episode to Webtoon, I was so nervous. I was really nervous because it was my first time really releasing my stories out to the world, you know? My first time really showing characters that I had made and something that I'd worked so hard on, and I was so scared, but I was really surprised at how much good feedback it got. Like within the first couple of days, I already had 100 subscribers on it, which was insane. Thank you guys so much. And seeing everybody's comments on it, it made me feel so happy, and I really loved seeing that. So I started working on the second episode, and I was feeling a lot more confident now that I kind of knew how to do this, because I was using Clip Studio Paint for this, and those of you who have seen my channel a lot know that I primarily use Paint Tool size, so this was definitely a challenge working with a bit of an unfamiliar program, but as I went into the second episode, I had a better idea of what I was doing. But about the middle of making this second episode, I realized I really didn't have much time left. My first episode had taken me 3 weeks to make, and if I had done the math correctly, I still had 4 more episodes to go, meaning 12 weeks, and the contest ended on June 30th, and I only had 8 weeks left, and that wasn't a lot of time. It was still doable, but it wasn't a lot of time. So I started feeling very stressed. I started having trouble sleeping, just thinking about it. It was just something that was on my brain all the time. I pulled my first all-nighter ever during the making of this comic. I had never stayed up all night, but I did for the first time. I actually pulled 2 over the course of making this comic. But then I learned the amazingness of coffee, and I swear that saved my life. I literally was living off of coffee this entire time. And I'm never going back. So after episode 2 came out, I realized I only had a little bit over a month to finish the last 3 episodes. Because with the second episode, I took a really long time making that one. It took me like 3 weeks as well. Because I was still making videos at the time of making this second episode, and it was just taking up too much time, and I wasn't working fast enough, and I was still learning how to efficiently make this quickly, so it was still taking too long to make these episodes. So I ended up dropping pretty much everything else in my life to get this comic done, because I only had 4 weeks left at this point. And so that included video making, which is why I didn't post at all during that time frame. And I started pulling 10 to 12 hour work days every single day, including weekends, to get this done. And it was it was brutal, that's for sure. So I started work on episode 3, and episode 3 went pretty smoothly. It was a little bit difficult to work on. I had a character in it. It is Aura's brother Flavian. Fun fact about him, he was actually created on a whim when I was writing the script for episode 2. because I had originally planned something completely different to happen in episode 3, but then I realized I wouldn't have enough time to make that happen. So I created Flavian instead and had their whole interaction happen, which was much easier for me. And he's pretty cool, so I'm pretty happy with his character, so it's a good thing. So I finished episode 3, and it turned out even longer than I thought it would be. I had originally planned on episode 3 and 4 being shorter, and episode 5 being the longest. But episode 3 ended up being 100 panels, which is actually the panel limit for Webtoons. So that was a little bit scary, having that hit the limit, because I didn't know that limit existed. So luckily it was exactly 100. And then I kept working. I didn't take a break afterwards. I just kept going. I started work on episode 4, and I learned the importance of using little thumbnails in this episode, because this episode had a lot of action shots in it. And this was easily the hardest episode out of the 5, because of all those action poses and a lot of dynamic facial expressions and backgrounds. It was incredibly difficult. But yeah, making thumbnails really helped me a lot with all those action poses. So I'm glad I was able to learn that. And on that episode, I actually somehow ended up miscalculating how many panels I had. I thought that I was at 97, but when I finished, I realized I had actually made 105 panels. Which, if you realize the issue here, the max is 100, and I had 105. So, in the midst of me having a mental breakdown, shout out to my sister once again for coming in and helping me squish my panels together so that that last episode would fit without having to cut out too much. So yeah, thank you once again. And at this point, when I released the 4th episode, I had 6 days left. And all of my other episodes had taken me 2 to 3 weeks to make. So I had less than half the amount of time to make this final episode than I did to make all of the other ones. And this is supposed to be like the ending. It's supposed to be big. It's supposed to look good. So I was really scared. I was really nervous. But then I something flipped inside of me. I don't know what it was. Maybe just pure adrenaline. I don't know. But for some reason, I felt way more relaxed making this last episode, despite the time constraints. And maybe it was because this episode didn't have a bunch of characters I wasn't super comfortable with drawing yet. It just had Chroma and Aura and another girl from the comic, which I was pretty confident with drawing over and over. It had pretty easy backgrounds, pretty easy stuff. I don't know what it was, or maybe just my experience. Like, I had the most experience making this one or something. But I felt really relaxed and I felt really confident. And surprisingly, I actually did it. I actually got it out on time. I released the last episode 2 hours before the contest closed. And I felt really proud of myself. I was really, it was so much work, but, I did it, and that was insane. And, yeah. So, and actually, surprisingly, my wrist didn't hurt too badly. It was starting to go by the end. It was done drawing for 12 hours every day, but it was mostly my neck that had problems this whole time, to be honest. But so I was grateful my wrist didn't hurt too badly, or else this would have been very difficult for me. But yeah, getting that last episode done was just the best feeling ever. I was so happy and proud of myself that I had made it, because over the course of this whole time, I really had contemplated giving up quite a few times, because I didn't think I would be able to make it to the end. So, I was really happy. And Even though it had been a very stressful experience for me, I felt really sad that it was over, because it had just been consuming my life for, 2 months, and it was really the only thing in my whole life, for so long. And, like, it felt like such a long time while I was doing it, but it felt like I blinked and, it was over. And I got so attached to these characters and to the story and everything, I felt so sad that it was over. And actually someone on Instagram made an edit for me, where they took screenshots from my comic and edited it together with music and stuff, and I don't know, something about seeing it was amazing. Just seeing my characters in that way, it was like the culmination of all that work. It was amazing. And just seeing, like, all those screenshots put together from the beginning to the end, I got so emotional watching it, and I just watched it over and over again, and I felt so proud, and, like, I actually started crying for, like, 10 minutes after I watched it, because it was so good, and it was so amazing, like, just everything. The fact that someone appreciated my work so much to do that, and to see it in that context, it really made everything feel worth it to me, which was awesome. So, if you're watching this, thank you so much for that edit. I know I've thanked you a lot, but I'm gonna thank you again, because it was amazing. And I learned so much about myself and my art through this process, and it was amazing. Like, it outweighed all of the bad things that I felt during this time, like all the stress and worry about, about the contest, about people maybe not liking what I'm putting out. All that kind of went away, and really what I'm left with is this experience, and I made so many new friends, and I got fan art, which was awesome. I've never had anybody do fan art for me before, which, like, it always makes me so happy to see people appreciating my artwork to that degree. And people even made their own characters based off of my Multichrome universe, which was so cool. And fun fact, in the 4th episode, all of the background characters, except for 3 of them, were characters that were designed by fans of the comic, which was so cool. And it was really cool to see them get excited about their characters, and all of the characters were so amazing. It was so cool to see that, and yeah, it was awesome, and it made me really happy that something that I created did that, that I was able to get that. Like, that's all I've ever wanted, really. So that was amazing. And so, even if I didn't win the contest, it's an experience that I'll always treasure for the rest of my life, because I learned so much, and I've made a lot of friends, and I've really found myself a lot more. Because if I needed any confirmation that this is what I want to do with my life, this is it. Because if it wasn't, I definitely would have given up during episode 2. So, yeah. But, yeah. So, if you haven't read it, then I definitely would love it if you did. Of course, you don't have to, but no pressure or anything like that. But, yeah, it was a really good experience, and I'll never forget it, that's for sure. I hope you have all enjoyed. I'm definitely going to be making more webtoons in the future, because that was so fun, and I will be making a full-length webtoon. I have plans to make a full-length webtoon soon. I'm currently in preparation for that. I'll be making that one, and then afterwards I am planning on making a Multichrome sequel. So But yeah, that's definitely way out in the future. Because I want to do a lot more preparation than I did for this short story before I do that. So I have another one lined up to do first, and then I'll do that one. So yeah, if you enjoy my work, then make sure to check out my Instagram for more art and stuff. And I will be posting more here on YouTube as well, so I hope you all enjoy that. Also, just a quick little note, I noticed that I hit 200 subscribers, which is amazing, so thank you so much. I don't know how many of you guys are going to stay based on my changes I'm going to be making, but, you know, if you want to stay, that's great. So thank you so much. And yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed, and until next time, bye!